Dale Earnhardt is viewed as the most badass driver to ever climb into a NASCAR stock car. What he did behind the wheel has made many NASCAR highlight reels over the years. He's part of many NASCAR fans' Mount Rushmore. In a lot of people's eyes, he's considered the GOAT. Is he really? Well, that's debatable, but what's not debatable is that Dale Earnhardt Sr. is a legend. From his first full season as a Cup driver, he showed the world just how great he was. 1979 was the year Dale Earnhardt started to catch people's attention, running up front in NASCAR's most famous race, the Daytona 500. He was unproven, unknown. He was so unknown that the commentators thought that he was a lap down when he was leading the pack at one point during the race. This was only the beginning for Dale Earnhardt. In 1980, which was officially his first full season, he won the championship, no joke. Led the points from race 2 all the way to race 31, which was the amount of races they raced during that time. Who was he driving for? No, not RCR, but Rod Osterlund was the team he was driving for. He then drove for Boyd Moore for a few years and got 3 wins with the team, but the success wasn't huge. Not until he landed with Richard Childress Racing. In 1984, Dale Earnhardt started his very long stint with Richard Childress Racing, and he was good, but his dominance didn't start until the late 1980s. In 1986, he won his second Cup championship and his first with RCR. The following year, Dale Earnhardt had one of the most dominant seasons in his career. In a 29 race season, he won 11 races, scored 21 top 5s, 24 top 10s, and had an average finish of 5.9. Yes, 5.9. The only other driver to place a 5th place average finish in the modern era is Jeff Gordon in his 1998 season, where he had a 5.7. Dale Earnhardt and his team was absolute monsters that year, and they continued to dominate for the rest of the 80s and into the early 1990s. By 1992, he had 5 championships. 92 was an off year for Earnhardt as he finished 12th in the standings, which was his worst points finish since 1985, where he finished 8th. It was just one off year for Earnhardt as he went on to win the next 2 championships, putting him at 7. In 1995, he gets beat for the championship by a young kid named Jeff Gordon, the start of a historic rivalry between the two. In 1996, he finished 4th in the points but had a bad fall off towards the end of the season when he got seriously hurt at Talladega after a hard impact which injured him, suffering a broken collarbone and dislocated his sternum. 1997 is when you started to see Earnhardt slip. He went winless for the first time since 1981 and finished 5th in points. So yeah, it's not like he had a terrible season, but for Earnhardt standards, it wasn't that great. 1998, he returned to victory lane, winning the Daytona 500 finally after 20 years of trying, but after that, Dale Earnhardt was non-existent for the rest of the 1998 season. He finished 8th in points but had an average finish of 16.2. Dale Earnhardt was 47 years old at this point, and I'm sure the thought that ran through people's mind was age is starting to catch up with him. Those who were thinking that got proven wrong. Dale Earnhardt was still hungry, and he showed that the next 2 seasons, having a resurgence in 1999 and 2000. Going into 1999, Dale Earnhardt was obviously still a household name, but when it came to him being competitive enough to win the championship, he wasn't among the favorites like in previous years. He was coming off one of his worst seasons since 1992, and Earnhardt was approaching 50 years old. At this point in his career, you would think his chances of winning a championship are pretty much done, and the start of 1999, that seemed to hold true. Earnhardt tried to defend his Daytona 500 title but fell short to Jeff Gordon. After that, he would finish 41st at Rockingham after a crash. Atlanta, he would finish 40th, and then another bad finish at Darlington, finishing 25th. After 8 races, Dale Earnhardt set 15th in points, but things turned around. The very next week after Martinsville, the Cup Series would head to Talladega, which is Earnhardt's best tracks, and surprise, surprise, Dale Earnhardt won.
The margin of victory unofficially 14/100ths of a second, and Mark Martin finishes third, a quarter of a second behind, and there's celebration in the Earnhardt pit.
After a rough start to the season, Earnhardt started to find his groove, and by race 15 he sat 7th in points. Earnhardt had a new crew chief in 1999 who was Kevin Hamlin after having Larry Mack in 1998. Earnhardt was really consistent after his Talladega win, but never moved up in points. He remained 7th. He had a good amount of top 10 streaks throughout the season, but will eventually have a race where he would get a mediocre finish. During the summer of 1999, Dale Earnhardt would score one of his most controversial wins in his career, the Bristol night race where he dumped Terry Labonte on the last lap.
Side of Earnhardt, he taps him, going into the third corner. He gets way down on the apron of the track, coming to the white flag. There's a leader change, and Labonte takes the lead.
And meanwhile, Ricky Rudd trying to
and Earnhardt spins him out.
Oh, man.
And Tony Stewart is involved in the crash, as is Mark Martin, Sterling Marlin, and several others. Dale Earnhardt takes the checkered flag.
And Jimmy Spencer ran second.
Yeah, Earnhardt wasn't always loved what a lot of people assumed, especially that night. He was public enemy number 1. After Dale Earnhardt win at Bristol, he remained consistent for the most part but stayed 7th in points. Even though he wasn't top 5 in points, he was having a better season than 1998. Earnhardt wasn't done winning for the year, as he would go into the fall Talladega race and end up winning, sweeping Talladega for the year.
Final turn, they head for the trial. Earnhardt, here comes Jerry, here comes Burton. Earnhardt blocks the way, and Dale Earnhardt will win the Winston 500.
Dale Earnhardt finished the 1999 season with a 7th place points finish, and statistically, it was one of his best seasons he had in a few years. He snagged 21 top 10s, which was the most he had since 1995. His average finish was a 12.0, which was a huge improvement over his 1998 season where he had a 16.2 average finish, and he scored 3 wins, which was the most he had since 1995. Going into the 2000 season, Dale Earnhardt was feeling good. First of all, he got back surgery during the offseason to repair his ruptured disc in his spinal column. Second of all, his son Dale Earnhardt Jr. was entering his rookie year in Winston Cup. Dale seeing his son in the Cup field had to make him feel like a proud dad. Finally, his DEI team was coming together as DEI was going from 1 to 2 cars as I just stated. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was coming into the Cup Series and he would be driving for his dad. So, Daytona, which is a track Dale Earnhardt loves, didn't go as planned. He finished 21st. He didn't like the package Dale was running at the time, and he made that clear in his interview. But also, he pretty much blamed Dale Earnhardt Jr. for costing them the race.
Earnhardt Jr. is going to get sent to his room after this race. Dale Earnhardt Sr. just rated in, said that 8 car just cost us the race. Who's driving that thing anyway, and who's he work for? In fact, he's not helping us out at all, guys.
Earnhardt would quickly recover the next week though, finishing 2nd at Rockingham. It didn't take Earnhardt that long to get his first win of the season, as he would end up having an exciting finish with Bobby Labonte at Atlanta.
Finishes in the history of NASCAR.
And Chalky Myers has said, who won? Who won?
I mean, that's what racing's all about right there. That's what we've been wanting to see. That's what the race fans want to see.
Dale Earnhardt is on his way. The victory lane will be there momentarily.
Earnhardt sat 3rd in points after that win and followed that up with a 3rd place finish at Darlington. He finished 39th at Bristol, but after that he got consistent again. Earnhardt got back up to 3rd in points, and by race 13, he never fell outside the top 3 in points for the rest of the season. The guy that Earnhardt would have to deal with to get his 8th title was Bobby Labonte, who was super consistent that year. Earnhardt didn't win much in 2000, he only had 2 wins, but he was getting a good amount of top 5s and top 10s, which obviously kept him in the hunt for the championship. His first win came race 4 of the season, and he wouldn't win again until race 30, which was at Talladega, a win that's really special. Earnhardt was running mid-pack with 5 to go, and by the last lap, he was in the lead and went on to win a thrilling race at Talladega.
Dale Earnhardt
Sr. has come from 17th spot in 4 laps to lead it on the final lap.
But Kenny Wallace is in second spot, followed by
His teammate,
Joe Nemechek.
Nemechek was the pole sitter, and Kenny Wallace has likewise never won a Winston Cup race. 3 Chevrolets on the final lap at Talladega. $2.7 million and $1 million bonus for Dale Earnhardt if he can hang on. The No. 5 contender, Mr. Restricted Race, Dale Earnhardt comes down and will take his 10th career victory at Talladega.
Dale Earnhardt was second in points after this win, but he was 210 points back of Baba Labonte. At this point, you start to say that Baba Labonte has the championship wrapped up, and when you look at Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s season up to that point, what are some races that caused him to be that far back? Well, like I said earlier, he finished 39th at Bristol, which obviously didn't help, but he had 2 25th place finishes as well. Plus, Baba Labonte was just so damn consistent. Earnhardt would go on to finish second in points, 265 points back of the eventual champion Baba Labonte. Earnhardt at age 49 was that close to getting another championship. He scored 13 top 5s, which is the most he collected since 1996, 24 top 10s, and had an average finish of 9.4, which is his best since 1995. The 3 team had a ton of momentum going into the 2001 season. Dale Earnhardt Sr. was the happiest he ever been. His career was coming to an end, but he still has something left in the tank to get that 8th championship. Unfortunately, we never got a chance to see if he can do it.
This is undoubtedly one of the toughest announcements that I've ever personally had to make. But after the accident in turn 4 at the end of the Daytona 500, we've lost Dale Earnhardt.
Dale Earnhardt sadly passed away in a last lap crash in the 2001 Daytona 500. It's really sad for a multitude of reasons. To see Dale Earnhardt's life be cut short after he was the happiest he ever been, so rejuvenated and as hungry as ever to have success, is demoralizing. The question that people always ask is, how would Dale Earnhardt have done in 2001 had he lived? All we can do is give our best guess at it. Basically, you just look at how Harvick did in that car when Dale passed away. Harvick won 2 races and finished top 10 in points as a rookie. If a rookie Kevin Harvick can run that well in Dale Earnhardt Sr. car, I'm sure Dale Earnhardt would have been a championship contender in 2001 had he lived. Not to mention, nothing changed when it came to the team. The team that was assembled for Dale Earnhardt was the team that Harvick worked with throughout the 2001 season. A rookie went out there with a group of guys he wasn't familiar with and won 2 races and finished top 10 in points. I would have to imagine Dale Earnhardt Sr., who was 20-something years into his career, would have done a lot better. But hey, that's my best guess at it. Dale Earnhardt remains to be one of the coolest drivers to this day by many fans. Him still being competitive late into his career is something not many drivers can say. It's not fair. It's not fair because Dale Earnhardt Resurgence was cut short. Had he lived, that Resurgence probably could have included an 8th championship.